religion, sexuality, racism, hypocrisy, family. In no particular order, because it is systematic. It is systematic, and yet we apparently lack the wherewithal to discuss the subject matter at hand systematically. There is talk these days in all of our musings about war and so on. There is a term that's used, unit cohesion. Unit cohesion referring to, I don't know, a battalion or a squadron or whatever they're called. That's a philosophical concept. It doesn't get that much more philosophical than that. The cohesion of the unit. The elements of a set, if they're to be conceived as systematically related, then to the degree that these elements of that set are systematically related, we say, or we could say, that they have unit cohesion. Now, I'm really interested in right now talking about my family. I think that was the fifth element of the list, but like I said, there is no particular order with this 5-part system. What are the parts? Sexuality, religion, racism, hypocrisy, family. In no particular order. So, in previous vlogs or videos or whatever these are called, I have described the nature of my particular, whatever the difficulties are, with my own family, particularly my dad. It's really, my dad is the only problem. Card carrying, paid in full, MAGA, Donald Trump fan club. My dad, Konstantinos Vergatis, has a special relationship with money, and his interests beyond business as such, business qua money, and it really is qua money. I mean, he seems to have little regard for the content of a business outside of its profitability. I mean this in the moral sense. Very typical sort of beyond good and evil business is beyond good and evil. Now there were two attacks. One time I got on the phone with my dad, and he said Mamdani is a communist. Oh, nice to hear you, Dad. You know, it's been a while. So when I hear attacks, I hear an attack on what? Communism. Not that I'm a communist, but I hear somebody interested in making problematic this predicate. Communism. That's an attack. In other words, parenthetically, Mamdani is a communist, parenthetically, and that's bad. Now, of course, we reject the notion that people are intrinsically any which way in themselves. If we take as axiomatic that culture is effective, therefore, if you name, proper name, brackets, communist, equals true, right? And this is offered as an attack. What is it an attack on? It's an attack on communism. I mean, you can attack communists willy-nilly, one after the other, but that's entirely beside the point. If the problem is really with communism, that means you have a theory of communism. So we'll start there, because whoever the individuals are associated with the theory, their association will go as derivative. Their association will go as derivative from the fundamental fact. What is the theory of communism that we're talking about? And then, what do you mean communism? No, what do you mean communism? You're the one that's attacking the communists. So what communist theory have you been reading, for example? And then, of course, indignation and umbrage. No, I haven't been reading any communist theory. And of course, then yours truly, I turn into Tasmanian devil. And then I start attacking because, hey, don't attack somebody and then pretend that you haven't attacked them. Don't attack a concept as though you haven't actually attacked a person. And don't attack a person as though you've merely attacked a concept. Or, anyway, you see what I'm trying to do. There's various combinatorics related to whether or not we're attacking a person or the concept that they fall under. Now, if we get into the business of individual essentialism, then what? Welcome to George Orwell or whatever. Individual essentialism is simply untenable from a Kantian perspective. I mean, go universalize that. Individualist essentialism. No, then you get a race hierarchic eugenics program. That's what you get. Essentialism about individuals gets you eugenics. So, therefore, when we attack something, we attack the concept. We don't attack people. But regardless, the subject of the attack, once somebody takes you up on your attack, and then you show that you're ready to fight the fight, and they back away. Well, he did the very same thing about Muslims. This one was especially upsetting. All Muslims are butchers. So then my sister calls me just now, a few hours ago. I said, "Why does Dad want to have a relationship with me? I mean, what's going on with all the racism and the attacking people and stuff?" No, he does want to have a relationship with me. Okay, then what's with all the political racism? You can't have a relationship with me if you're a racist. Oh no, he's not a racist. Okay, then what does it mean? All Muslims are butchers. What does that mean? Now, I think I've given you enough of a taste. So, and I was going to throw in further corollary, derivative, whatever, is the following. So, I have a certain relative on that side of my family who is also related to my dad. And that relative, as it turns out, after they have established themselves and lived quite a number of years, as square, cisgender, whatever, as it were. As it turns out, they, one way or another, fall under LGBTQ plus category. Now, I have not, of course, when I found this out and I had opportunity, I extended very directly. I said, "You have my 100% support. If there is nothing for me to say. I mean, I'm all on board with sexual health, is my position. However you get there, if you don't break the law, right? In other words, don't hurt anybody. I mean, when we say sexual health, we mean willing participants, for crying out loud. Once you have that, you've got sexual health. Okay, so now this relative is very closely related to us, to me and my dad. So, if my dad wants to have a relationship with me, is he prepared to say to me directly, "Yes, I absolutely accept X person the way they are"? in their interpretation of their own sexual health. I absolutely accept it. Now, I would take it to be that our relationship itself very much hinges on his inability rather, to accept a great many other humans as legitimate. And this I take to be at the fundamental core of what everything is wrong with our politics and our society in the United States, is people behaving like my dad behaves, or has been behaving. Now, I told my sister, I said, look, when you guys talk, because I haven't talked to my dad now for some months. So when you talk about what the problem is between me and Constantine, what kinds of things do you talk about? She says, "Oh, we don't talk about it." Oh. So like how much do you want to have a relationship with me? You're not worried about it? Like you're not talking about it every day? Like that's arguably the main thing that I've been spending all my waking hours thinking about. I do want to have a relationship with my dad. I mean, whatever that means. I mean, in some vague sense, because there's so much of what he is that I find absolutely disgusting. So I feel justified or as a public service, I feel like, many of us should be discussing these things. What are they? Sexuality, religion, hypocrisy, family, and racism. Why is it so difficult, even though humans clearly have as central two principles, sexuality and religion, and evidence of sexuality and religion is everywhere? And yet we're unable really to discuss those things and a great many other things that apparently seem derivative to whatever degree. In our society, we apparently avoid almost all discussion about anything of actual substance. The flow of conversation has been thoroughly corrupted and distorted by the news cycle, such that even if you're following so-called independent podcasts, there's not much independence to it at all, because in fact, if we're dependent on the algorithms that are doing the selecting, for example, YouTube algorithm, this is hardly an even playing field, and everybody knows it. That's why all the leading podcasts have the big block letters with very kind of all or nothing What are some of the political tags that they do? All hell breaks loose. That's Midas Touch Network. Ben Meiselas, in particular, is guilty of this. All hell breaks loose. Don't do that. Don't do that. All hell breaks loose means the apocalypse is here. The world is ending. That's all hell breaks loose. Or maybe that there's a tsunami that's about to swallow all of Washington, D.C. That's all hell breaks loose. Or that there's been a nuclear blast. All hell breaks loose. Not all hell breaks loose because somebody was questioned or somebody was caught masturbating at the All-American State Fair. So what I'm getting at is that the news cycle, which even though we have a kind of hypnotic sort of, indie podcast. I mean, the commercials, they're half of them are commercials now. I mean, complaints about podcasts, I can go on. I mean, they're becoming corrupted and rubbish. Before the industry, I shouldn't say industry, but the phenomenon or the medium or the technology, before it really even gets any foothold, already it's basically becoming transmogrified and trashed. Nobody's talking about any. I mean, who's talking about something real? It's even affecting people like Katie Fang and Ellie Leonard. It's the kind of sensationalism. We're getting no journalism these days. We're just getting sensationalism of podcasters. Nobody's doing any real thinking. Nobody's interviewing any real people. Podcasters just go on other podcasters' shows. And then the person on I've Had It podcast, what's their producer's name? Kylie Jolie goes to the section of the show where it's like fan mail comes in. No, we want to hear, those people need to be guests. We want, everything should be more like Sarah Longwell Focus Group podcast. Sarah Longwell Focus Group podcast, she just does focus groups with voters. And the show is not particularly entertaining, but it's massively informative because you really get to hear what voters are saying. And even that, it's a good indication. It's a good example. Focus group podcast. Because at once it lays clear exactly how superficial Americans are too. We don't know jack shit about politics. Go do focus group podcast in Europe and see and compare it. What people know about history and about government and politics in Europe compared to this country. There's no comparison. Because it's an ordinary, everyday subject of conversation to talk about political realities, real political realities in Europe. But here it's taken as you talk about politics is taken as a million other things before it's actually taken literally as talk about politics. So the result is our conversations, if they count as such, are pretty much dominated by, what did Don Lemon say, or what did Aaron Burnett say, or Joy Reid, or Tucker Carlson. There's no news. There's no actual news being offered. And what are they talking about? All of the eyeballs are on these people, but if we want to talk about Epstein files, we have to talk about the sex lives of powerful men. Now, within the inner workings of the sex life of a powerful man, you can find sex, religion, hypocrisy, racism, family. It's a private system of secrecy. The private patriarchal family. That's my Hallmark card for the day. I'm sorry that I play into the stereotype. Yep. Fucking patriarchy. I want to know, how deep does the patriarchy go? Who's got authority and why? When I ask my shrink, when I say, what are you doing to oppose Donald Trump? And my shrink just kind of shrugs and stutters. The recording is on this channel. You can find it. Corinne Grotto is the doctor's name. Corinne Grotto. I recorded it and I said, what are you doing to oppose, what are you doing with your authority position to oppose the government? There's a duty to warn. Is there not? You're a psychiatrist. You're a medical doctor. There's a duty to warn. Dr. John Gartner, that's the example. Yeah, I don't really have any opinion about that. Or, yeah, Dimitri, that's not really how this works. Oh, okay. Well, quod erat demonstrandum. You're telling me how this works, dear doctor. Or should I say witch doctor? Or should I say witch doctor? Welcome to the United States of America. Patriarchy. Patriarchy is a greedy man with a malformed sex life. Patriarchy. The private family household. The private family household, what is it? Incest? I don't get it.